The member for Nepean Carleton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is a pleasure to join debate today on Bill 36, the Local Food Act, and of course I stand here in support of local food and to support this act, and hopefully we'll be able to improve it. Speaker, I think that having this discussion is very valuable to the people of the province because I think that it is very important for our kids across the province to learn and understand where food comes from, how it impacts our health, how it impacts our environment, and of course, the Speaker, how it impacts our economy. I obviously support enhancing the supply of local food and access to it across Ontario. I'm fortunate. I come from a city riding that has a great deal of rural land, and therefore a lot of agricultural land. In fact, many of the roots of my community are agrarian, and they bring up ideas of self-reliance, self-sufficiency, and of course sustainability. And I'm very proud of the folks that I represent in Nepean Carleton who are agricultural leaders. And I want to just mention a number of them because I think they have been a tremendous asset to me over the years in understanding the importance to local food and to farming and agriculture. And for example, Ed and Rick Scout, two brothers who own a massive dairy operation just outside of North Gorham, Malakoff Road. Dwight Foster, who has become a really good friend of mine. He is one of the largest grain operators in Ontario, the largest in Eastern Ontario. And of course, he and his brother have a wonderful sweet corn operation. A friend of mine, Hillier Green, although he has passed away, has left a wonderful farm, Abbey Hill Farms, to his sons, Neil and Grant. And they have almost everything, pumpkins to plants. They have tomatoes and cucumbers. They have wonderful sweet corn, and they have this great food stand right off of Bankfield in Manotick, and I think they're doing great work, and I'm so proud of them because they're also entrepreneurs and they feed people in the city. My friend Dan O'Brien has a cattle farm, and he makes sure that community organizations often will have some beef to auction off each and every year. My friend Earl Stanley has a local business, Stanley's Maple Lane Farm, and they produce obviously maple syrup. And we also provide in our riding in Nepean Carleton mushrooms, garlics, apples, strawberries. Again, we are a self-sufficient riding, even though it is in the middle of a major international city, the City of Ottawa. Even though we have fast growth, it's really important for the communities across not only the rest of Ottawa, but throughout the entire province to recognize where this food is coming from, and that's so very vitally important. I would like to commend our agriculture critic, Ernie Hardeman, the member from Oxford, for the tremendous work he has done in not only travelling across the province and going to farms and meeting with farmers as well as other agricultural producers within the industry, but he came forward with a white paper which I actually think is very significant. My colleague from Belleville earlier alluded to the food terminals statement that we have made that we would like to see another one in Ontario, and of course I will be lobbying very hard that that actually happen in the City of Ottawa for Eastern Ontario. But I go back to Mr. Hardeman, the member from Oxford, and his steadfast determination and dedication to represent the agricultural community here. And I want to say one thing very quickly. This past summer, when there was a drought in Eastern Ontario, Ernie Hardeman was there. He came down to meet at Wyatt McWilliams Farm just outside of Navan, which is inside the City of Ottawa. I'm forever grateful for that. And when there was an issue on the payment program to assist our farmers when it ran out in March and it wasn't going to be able to provide the farmers with what they needed, Ernie Hardeman was again on the case for our farmers, and I really do thank him for that. Now, a number of speakers have said that this bill needs to be improved. I think the government acknowledges that there might be some opportunities to strengthen the piece of legislation. We heard from members of the third party, the NDP, that they also feel that this bill could be enhanced significantly. And one of the ways in which we believe in the Ontario PC Party that this can be enhanced and improved is by actually amending the Education Act, because we believe that teaching food literacy is going to be very important to children, because it is important that they not only understand where the food comes from and how it can be prepared, but it also helps with, as I said earlier, that environment that we live in, as well as the economy that we're trying to grow in the province. So our amendment would require that curriculum guidelines issued by the Minister of Education include food education as a mandatory component of instruction for pupils in every grade. And Speaker, this could be as simple as including it with health promotion or in gym class, but making sure at some point throughout the curriculum, throughout the year, that we are addressing this very important and vital piece of information. So the vision that we have on this side of the Assembly, and that I very much agree with my colleague from Oxford, and having is to have food education not only address nutrition and healthy food choices, but it will also give the kids in our schools across Ontario the additional knowledge of farming, processing, and agriculture. Now, I was very pleased a couple of weeks ago to go visit a few of my friends in the Fraser family. 3 generations were there, actually. Mrs. Fraser, who started farming with her husband in 1949, and then they built an even larger farm that went to their sons, Richard and John. And John's oldest son, Kent, actually had us all come to the farm and see their new mechanical milker, or their robot milker. They actually have 3 for 150 cattle, for dairy cows, and it has enhanced, I think, their flexibility on the family farm. But basically, this Delaval system that they have actually takes a robot arm and it milks the cow, and the milk gets processed, and it's very high-tech. It's very wonderful that this technology exists, and it's very efficient. I was so impressed with this after watching 4 of the cows get milked, and then of course another 4 get passed by because they had already met their quota for the day, that I actually brought my little girl the next day, unprompted, just to see John in the driveway, and said, "John, do you mind if I take my husband and my daughter into the farm? I'd like her to see this." My daughter is a city kid. She lives in a neighborhood where there's houses right beside us, and we don't live on a farm. And I'd really like her to see this and experience how technology, science, and farming have come together to dovetail to become a very strong agricultural an economic driver in our community. So I did. I took Victoria there. It was amazing. And when I was there, John said, years ago we used to have lots of kids come from the schools. And unfortunately, Speaker, that's sort of stopped over the years. We should be having more of this discussion. We should be encouraging more teachers and our school boards to have those visits to the family farm and see not only what is happening in terms of production of food, but the advancements in technology. And when they work together so well, we see not only an enhancement in our supply chain for food, but we also see that there are careers that could be made. So food literacy and student nutrition, Speaker, as a result of this, will offer the opportunity to build a greater market for food from Ontario directly, and as I said, in the constituency of Nepean Carleton, directly in our constituency. So there are children that, for example, may live in Barrhaven or where I live in Leslie Park, who would love to learn a little bit more about the farm 5 or 10 kilometres down the road that's actually being sold in Ross's Independent. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, Ross's Independent year after year wins awards for how they display their local Ontario produce, because they are big supporters of Foodland Ontario. So again, the idea would be, in terms of our amendment that will be put forward by Mr. Hardeman and supported by the Ontario PC Caucus, is to have food education not only address the nutrition and healthy choices, but also to better give our kids the additional knowledge of the farming process and agriculture in general. And I think when we speak about this, Speaker, we look at this holistically. We look at this as a way for the government to actually improve their piece of legislation, strengthen that legislation, so that we will actually make a profound impact, not only for our agriculture sector here in Ontario and the importance it brings to our economy, and of course the importance it brings to our environment, but also by teaching students a number of things. One, I think, Mr. Speaker, is important is our farmers are the best stewards of our environment. Our children will learn that if they are dealing with this in school. We've talked about the health benefits if our children are learning more about what local food means. Our children will learn a lot more about the economy and science and technology, as I've spoken about earlier. So, Speaker, I think that there's a really good opportunity here, and I'm very proud, for example, that our daughter is the caregiver during the day. Myrna Hay actually helps my daughter learn to grow Ontario products as well. We're teaching her how to grow tomatoes, as well as she's got a tulip. She's 8 years old, and we're starting her young so she understands this. And I think every Ontario parent wants the same opportunity for their children, and I think there's an ability to do that working within our education system with our farmers and our teachers. And Speaker, I think good things grow in Ontario.